Hello, I'm here to talk to you today about energy transmissions. It's something that I'd never thought would be words coming out of my mouth. Let me tell you a little bit about what they are and what they're for, and then I'll share a bit about my journey to here. So, energy transmissions are most commonly likened to Reiki. So if you've had Reiki before, you'll know that the practitioner uses their hands and holds them over your body, or equally does that from a distance. But the form of Reiki is that the energy comes through the Reiki practitioner into the individual receiving the Reiki. The difference with energy transmissions is that the energy comes directly supported by me, but directly into your system. So although I through me, predominantly it's coming straight down into your system, unfiltered. Energy transmissions are used for different things. So sometimes energy transmissions are purely designed and intended to support the awakening process, to support the dissolution of the belief in being a separate self. Sometimes they're used to support enlightenment, so to support the lightening of our conditioned psychology, to lighten the beliefs that we've been holding as truths, so that we're no longer in that battle of trying to fulfill these ideas, these psychological ideas. And as they fall away, we feel lighter, we feel easier, we feel more free. And sometimes it's a mixture of those two. So sometimes transmissions could be used as a mixture of both awakening and enlightenment. It doesn't matter which you go for, it doesn't matter what somebody's offering. The primary thing is that it feels good for you. You always, always, always want a yes in your heart if you're going for energy transmissions. You want to feel that it's the right thing for you. You want to feel that draw towards it. Because when we feel that draw towards something, it's a sign of that, this is the thing for me, this is what is right for me now. Now, that doesn't mean you can't cynical perspective. I've heard of people offering transmissions who've had people feeling cynical about it and still effects have been seen. And that's always really cool because it shows that we don't have to believe it at this psychological level in order for it to be successful. Let me just talk a little bit about what you might expect from transmissions. So given they're all different, and obviously the practitioners are different and what comes through on each occasion can be different, or particularly for that person offering it, what they offer will determine what comes through. So it's always going to be unique. But from my experience of them personally, and from what I've seen with those who I offer them to, generally during the transmission, there'll be a beautiful feeling of calm and sometimes warmth. Sometimes there might be that expansiveness. My cat's come to join me, can you see? There might be that feeling of expansiveness, essentially the feelings of ourself, the feelings of our beautiful, free, unbounded self. And so sometimes that gorgeous feeling can stay for a while after the transmission, and people can have that feeling for days, a week after. Then what can happen in the second week is there can be the clearing up of some of the psychological. So in the settling back into ourself, into that spaciousness, it does create the space for our psychological conditioning to start to move and be seen in order for it to be released, in order for us to have realizations, in order for us to undo the psychological patterns. So it's actually really helpful that our second week can feel quite turbulent after a transmission, because that's the unraveling of the psychological. And so what I do with my transmissions is a mixture of awakening and enlightenment. I don't currently specifically distinguish which one we're doing. So I don't just do one or the other. we have a conversation at the start of the call. We understand what's been happening for you recently. We talk about what the general theme or intention for the transmission might be. And then very much it's handed over to life, trusting and knowing that what comes through for you on that day is perfect for that day. And I've seen over and over again how my mind can have ideas of what it thinks is going to happen in the transmission, or what that person needs to receive or see or feel. And then it can be completely different, and in fact turns out to be perfect for the individual. So there is a huge amount of recognition that I, Helen, have nothing to do with this process. Indeed, I only developed the capacity to offer transmissions once the disidentification from Helen was complete. So when I received transmissions in 2021, it was with the singular purpose of full awakening, full dissolution of the belief in being the character Helen. And so that was achieved September, tick the box, September 2021. And since then has been the continued unraveling of the remaining psychological conditioning. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's a lifelong endeavour, but for sure it gets so much easier and so much lighter in the absence of the belief in being Helen. And so when that belief had fallen away completely for me, that opened up this capacity to offer transmissions. And quite rightly, because we don't want Helen involved in this process. We don't need Helen involved in this process. So when we're in transmission together, I'm not there. There's enough Helen to know what's going on and to keep an eye on the time and to have the attention on who I'm sitting with. But there's an absolute handing over to life and to the energy to say, yeah, you've got this. Like, oh my goodness, how could Helen ever have that? How could Helen ever know what was right for that person on that particular day? So what this means when we come together, when we come to have a transmission together, you come into the room, and this is where we sit. This is why I did this video here, so you can see this is where we are when we're doing transmission. We spend a bit of time talking so that you tell me what's been happening for you recently. And then we move into the transmission phase. So at most, it's sort of 50-50 talking and transmission, sometimes just 10 minutes chatting and getting clear, and then more time on transmission. Sometimes even less time talking than that. It depends. We go with what's needed on that day. We go with what feels right on that day. And then we sit together as though in meditation. So I have a gong on my phone, so I play the gong to start us off. I then mute. You choose if you mute or not. And we sit together as though in meditation. And I see colours. I sometimes receive messages. I very much get a sense of the energy that's coming through, the kind of vibe of it. This is Portia, by the way. I'd like to meet Portia. But yes, I sit and I receive and I guide the energies into your system. And at the end, I do an energetic integration and ground you back into your body so that you leave feeling balanced and supported. And then, I'm slightly distracted, my cat's licking my hand now. And then we simply close the call. So I unmute and play the gong again so that you know that our time has ended. And we just say a quiet goodbye and a thank you. Because what I really want is for you to stay in the energies that we've just created, to kind of let it soak in a bit before you go back into life. Now, it's not essential. When I was receiving transmissions, I was often finishing the call and going straight to make the dinner. It still had the effect. But if you can sit for 15 minutes afterwards or longer, then it just allows those energies to settle and integrate and soak into your system. And that's it. And then we keep in touch with with how things are going, with your experience. She's now batting me. I think she wants some food. So we keep in touch with how things are going. We, yeah, you let me know how things are feeling, if there's challenges coming up. And if the challenges are significant, then we might want some conversation time as well as some transmission time. But we do that as we go along. We see how it goes as we go along. Fundamentally, my interest is in you having an easier experience of life. And the way I've found that to work the most effectively is through awakening and enlightening. And these transmissions just really support that process. They support that process at a level before the mind, beyond language. It gets to the stuff that, yeah, words just can't get to. So if it sounds interesting to you, I would love to meet you. Everybody gets a taster session if you've not had a transmission with me before. So you get to experience it and see what you think. And yeah, let me know. I look forward to meeting you and sitting in transmission together. Much love.